Boxing Ego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Now, May 20th can't get here soon enough. I actually want to go to the UK for this. This is the type of fight that I like. It's a 50-50 fight, great fight with IBF champion. He prolonged the process, coming off injury and whatnot, and decisions, trying to get a bigger fight. But we're getting it now, and that's what's important. And it's right for boxing, right for the division. That's Kell Brook'S versus Errol Spence Jr. Now, link in the description. ESPN did a great interview with Errol Spence Jr. after it was announced that that's who he'll be fighting in Sheffield, England. And I'm looking forward to it. Now, the interview was very good. They went into some detail, and Errol Spence, he basically talked about how he's waited his whole life for this, throughout the amateurs, the Olympics, training constantly. He says he's excited. He also said that Al Haymon asked if he would be willing to travel to the UK to fight Kell Brook'S in his backyard, basically. Him being the hometown fighter, go to hostile territory. And he said it was never a problem. He said nowhere but the UK was ever mentioned or negotiated. And he said what I said in my previous video. That's exactly what Kell Brook'S had to do to get the IBF belt. He came across the pond, fought Showtime Sean Porter, who was on a tear. He had beat Devin Alexander for the title, and he was the champion. And Kell Brook'S came here. And basically, Errol Spence is saying that's what a champion should do. Or that's what a challenger should do. The champion should get to fight in his backyard if it makes sense and it makes business sense. And the challenger has to sometimes fight on the road. We've seen it time and time again. So, I mean, I don't really see what there is to not like about Errol Spence Jr. He's exciting. He's aggressive and gets the knockout. He puts punches together. Vicious. He's like, I call him Mike McCallum. Like this year, some of you guys are new to boxing, wouldn't know who Mike McCallum is, but that's the body snatcher. And that's what Errol Spence does. He rips you and destroys your body. It's phenomenal to see his body work. Pause. And another thing is what Errol Spence is saying, once again, it lends credence and rejects what the haters said and the detractors about Al Haymon. They said Al Haymon, he protects his fighters, and it's all about the cherry pick, and he won't let his fighters take tough fights. Yet Charles Martin, first title defense, he fought that killer Anthony Joshua, all knockouts. And then after that, his fighter lost, the Al Haymon fighter Charles Martin lost and went crazy. And another fighter that's an Al Haymon fighter was sent to the Anthony Joshua slaughterhouse, and that was Dominic Breazeale, who was undefeated. He could have protected his record. He went, and they both traveled to the UK, just like Errol Spence is doing, to fight Anthony Joshua, a known puncher and a guy who is just looking destructive, right? Amir Khan fought Canelo at Canelo weight, no rehydration clause, a guy who has a pact with Al Haymon. Dominique Wade, he fought Triple G, a guy who's perceived and he's definitely considered the best middleweight out there, who's knocked out his last 20, I don't know at the time when he fought Wade, but he had knocked out 21 to 23 different people in a row. And then Dominique Wade was added to that list of statistics. So once again, it sounds like the detractors don't really have a case. Al Haymon and PBC and Showtime, first of all, they're running the first quarter of boxing. Not saying, I mean, there's 52 weeks in a year, but HBO has some major catching up to do. There are some HBO fights that I'm looking forward to. Another fighter who's a Haymon fighter fighting a tough challenge, and that's my dude Danny Jacobs. He's fighting, it's in his backyard, but he's fighting against a known killer, a guy who has like 24 knockouts in a row, right? But a lot of the HBO fights are pay-per-view, so HBO's regular programming is at risk here, because it doesn't matter if you have an HBO subscription if you have to pay additional money for a pay-per-view event. So I think they need to work on their regular HBO programming. I mean, fighting Francisco Vargas and the guy that beat him, Berchelt, those aren't big enough fights to make people want to keep their HBO subscription if you're only buying HBO for your sports and your boxing, which they've been known for years. But back to the subject, it shows that Al Haymon, he's not protecting this dude. He said, hey, do you want to do this? I'm your advisor. Do you want to fight Kell Brook in his backyard? And Errol Spence said, yeah, I'm a competitor. I've been in the Olympics, so I've had to travel. I had an amateur career. And he says, I quote from the ESPN article, Haymon left it up to me. He said, you feel comfortable going to fight him in the UK? No problem. And then he also goes on to say he has family in the UK. Some of his family from Jamaica migrated to the UK. So again, I really don't see what there is not to like about Errol Spence. Again, he's exciting as in terms of stylistically. You can't say he's running. Some people even say he gets hit too much. But this is a guy who's dangerous, who he's not going to be able to afford to get hit that much flush or whatever the situation people gripe about. So we'll see. We'll see his true skills and what he brings to the table. A lot of people, because I've made videos basically stating my opinion on what's right for boxing, they think I have a horse in the race. I don't care if Kell Brook wins. I don't care if Errol Spence Jr. wins. They're both good fighters. May the best man win. I just wanted to see it. Now that I'm seeing it, I have no problem with that. I could still have an opinion and a prediction, and I'm leaning towards Errol Spence to win it. But if Kell Brook proves me wrong, then it is what it is. It won't be the first time, and it won't be the last time that I've been wrong on a prediction. But I'll do a 7 reasons most likely for this fight and let you know why I see Errol Spence Jr. winning. But again, may the best man win. But I like the attitude, man. I think Errol Spence has been very patient with this whole process, and he got the runaround for a bit, and he was put on the back burner. You guys can say whatever you want. On my channel, like HBO, Showtime, they don't cash my checks. Google, YouTube, they're the ones that write me the checks. And the great thing about YouTube and it as a platform is freedom of speech too, you know what I mean, within reason, but you also have that creative control. I could speak my mind freely. I'm not contracted to anybody, you know what I mean? And I do that, and I give it to you real, unadulterated, that uncut, that raw, that puro, you know what I'm saying? And I just see Spence being very patient with the process, and I do see that Kell Brook, from my view, he was backed into a corner where he had to take the fight. And he let you know that. Like, it's not really even speculation. He let you know that Errol Spence Jr. was not his first choice. I mean, it's not like he was like beating around the bush. He literally said it. Not many people are knowing who Errol Spence Jr. is. People don't really know him. If I got to kill myself to make weight, or if I have to come down to a weight that takes some work for me to make at 147, then I just want the big names. I want Manny Pacquiao. I want Amir Khan. And when those fights didn't pan out, now all of a sudden he's like, I give the fans what they want. I mean, you are giving the fans what they want, but it definitely wasn't your first choice, and you made that abundantly clear. You guys can say whatever you want. Again, I'm not crying over spilled milk, but facts are facts. If he said that, because this is the thing. A lot of people, I said this in a previous video, if Kell Brook was all Brody about fighting Errol Spence Jr., then he could have, like Jay-Z said, let's end the speculation. I'm talking to all of y'all. He could have ended the speculation right then and there and say, hey, I'm recovering from an eye injury, but guess what? When I recover, Errol Spence Jr., you're next. I remember one of my favorite post-fight interviews from Timothy Bradley was when he was beefing with Devin Alexander. And he had this sweat, beads of sweat dripping down his head on HBO, and he had just beat whoever he had beat. And he said, if the business is right, if the money is right, Devin Alexander, you're next. And he just looked at he looked all crazy after. That's when Bradley was really, in my opinion, was really, really hungry. He's like, yeah, if it makes sense, your people talk to my people, and Devin Alexander, yeah, you next. And he looked crazy in that interview, and that I like that about Bradley. You could see the hunger, and he also pretty much made Devin Alexander quit in that fight. But that's for my real boxing heads that have been watching the sport longer than 2 months and know more than just the top names, Canelo or Floyd or something or whatever. But that's what Kell Brook could have easily done, but he chose not to do that. So to me, I mean, this was his last hurrah. He could either fight someone else at 147, but then that's a real duck because you're fighting somebody at 147 and they're probably not as good as Errol Spence Jr. because all the other guys who are more proven than Errol Spence like Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, they're tied up with their own fight. Pacquiao's fighting in Australia or Dubai or whatever he's doing. And Floyd's retired, may fight Conor McGregor. So there were no real big fights at 147. Plus, even if you found somebody that you wanted to fight at 147, then it wouldn't be for your belt because you would get stripped. And if you left the division with this chapter still open, then people would say you're ducking because you had to leave the weight class, just like Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton. Frampton beat Quigg, became a mandatory for Guillermo Rigondeaux, and all of a sudden he can't make the weight no more. These are facts. You guys could get your fact checkers, do whatever, Google it. These are facts. Rigondeaux became Frampton's mandatory, and guess what? He struggled too much to make the weight. So people would have treated the Kell Brook'S situation. So as far as I'm concerned, it's something he had to do. But back to this ESPN phone interview and article with Spence, I just like his demeanor. He says he's a boxing fan. He's seen Kell Brook'S fights, even the ones with mandatories that he was clearly favored to beat. And he says in the Golovkin fight, he said Kell Brook'S a strong fighter. He likes to dictate the pace like most people, and he came up short. But this is the last pull quote. He said, "Trust me, this, in terms of Brooks Spence, will be a better fight than Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. I know I'm definitely coming back with the belt. It might be a knockout. It might be a win by decision, but the end result is I'm coming home with the belt." I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, win, lose, or draw, I don't see how you can't like this attitude and demeanor. And see, this is the thing. When I'm a straight shooter, classy. You don't like me, then I don't like you. No, that's a Floyd Mayweather quote. He said, if it's fuck me, then it's fuck you. But I keep it real. And this is the funny thing. If people do what they're supposed to be doing, I give credit where credit's due. Very, very simple, right? People, they'll be, oh, you're on Spence's jock. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. It has nothing to do with being on someone's jock. You guys always try to relate this into homosexuality, which is very weird. I want to talk boxing. I don't want to talk about homosexuality. You know what I'm saying? And, oh, you're in love with Errol Spence. It has nothing to do with that. If he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, then he'll get his propers from me at least, right? And some of you guys bullshit in the comment section and say this is what you want. You say, I want to see the fighters, the best fight the best. Yeah, that's what it is. It's all about pride and honor. And then he's telling you everything you want to hear. He has an exciting style. And then you attack somebody for supporting this type of attitude. Again, there's not really anything for me to criticize Errol Spence for in this situation. Maybe in the future he does something and then I have to say, oh, I don't agree with that. But as far as this, he played it out well. He waited his turn. He didn't get like overzealous and go in and fight someone. Like you look at Amir Imam, he was next in line. He was a mandatory for Victor Postal. And he lost to Adrian Granados. That was a dumb decision. He should have just went after Postal. Because, I mean, Postal's a good fighter, but Terrence Crawford, a good boxer, beat him. So maybe he had a better chance of beating that style. I don't know. But we never got to find out. And he ruined his number one mandatory shot. So Errol Spence could have got in there with a fight that didn't make sense and not look the same or lost or whatever. But he was patient and he didn't stall out his career too long because he knew his chance was coming. And he's doing interviews saying, I'm excited. I'll fight in his backyard. That's not a problem. Kell Brook'S is a strong fighter, but I think I could beat him. So he's giving him his props. He's saying he's a student of the game. And he says he's being realistic. Whether it's a knockout or decision, the end result is I'm coming home with that belt, that IBF strap, man down, strap season. So again, there's not really anything I can nitpick or critique. I love this attitude, and it looks like 2017 just got a whole hell of a lot better. It was already great. We have a lot of competitive matches. Anthony Joshua Klitschko, interested in that one. Garcia, Thurman, even Broner Granados. There's a lot of good fights. And then add to that Brooks Spence. And then if Floyd fights Conor, that's just a circus, but it's a big circus. So, I mean, there's just a lot to be thankful for as a boxing fan. And I'm definitely thankful for guys like Errol Spence Jr. who are doing it the right way. They're waiting their turn. They're racking up bodies. And they're training. Like, you know what I mean? Errol Spence, another thing. I follow him on social media, he could easily get fat and sloppy because you notice, and this is no shade, this is just once again fact, get your fact checkers. When Kell Brook was in negotiations to fight Brandon Rios, those negotiations they spanned over a few months, and it was a long process, just like Kell Brook versus Jesse Vargas, and nothing ever happened. Nothing ever materialized from those fights. They were like, oh, the glove, oh, this and this. And bottom line is Kell Brook didn't fight Brandon Rios. And that would have been a step up considering the competition he fought post Sean Porter, right? But Brandon Rios didn't take care of his body at the time. He didn't stay disciplined. And the reason I know that is because he got stopped for the first time in his career, his very next fight after that. And he got stopped to the body because Bradley was great game plan with his new coach at the time, Teddy Atlas, and he was tearing his body up, and he was athletic enough to do that, which was smart because a lot of people they headhunt, like Mike Alvarado headhunted Brandon Rios. Bradley, Teddy Atlas, great game planning by going to his body because they knew what type of fighter he was, and he knew in his off season you might be overeating or like on the couch, and just because you're on the couch and don't have a fight don't mean you have to be on the couch, literally, you know what I'm saying? So Brandon Rios, it looks like he got his act together at the Tengusen gym, so that's good to see. Anxious to see if he comes back with Victor Ortiz or whatnot, but bottom line, those negotiations didn't pan out for Kell Brook, and he didn't look like he took care of himself. But Errol Spence, I can't say the same thing. He was at Canelo Smith, he was in shape. I've seen some recent posts and pictures from him, and he's still in shape. So he knew his time was coming, and he waited it out. Bravo. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego, signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.